Okay, so this is our review of the markets July 13th, Wednesday night. We had the CPI release this morning, 9.1%, I believe it was. Highest inflation since 1981, making headlines. And so we'll start with TLT, then we'll review the three major indices. As I keep saying, TLT, the direction of TLT is highly correlated with the 10-year yield. So knowing where that goes tells you the 10-year yield, which is correlated with mortgage rates, the prime rate. It's a benchmark for many, many different things. And so we know TLT is on day 17 of its daily cycle. The last daily cycle ended on day 27. And we so far have a high on day 11, but today was a big bullish outside day. So we opened down here and then we rallied, so way below yesterday's low. To be clear, a big gap down opening. And this was after a really bearish looking candle. So you had your high, you had a high, and then you had a lower low. You had a high, and then you had a higher low, right? So that was good. This is bullish. So you have your high, your higher low, and then you have another high, and it's a higher high because it's higher than this high. And then you actually had a higher low, right? This low is higher than this low. Then we came up here and it looked like, is this going to become a lower high to this? And then we start to roll over. And then you got the gap down this morning that said, maybe that's exactly where we're going. That was obviously CPI driven. And then we had a rocket ship after. I mean, look at this huge candle. And I don't have the volume on here, but I'll add it because I'll add it. What you'll generally find, and that's why I don't include volume, is that it's highly correlated with range. So when you have a huge candle, that generally means there was pretty big volume. Yeah, I mean, decent. I mean, there was obviously bigger volume here. So this is a really important sign. And if we look at the weekly chart, that puts us on week 4 of this new weekly cycle. We're now above the 10-week moving average. That's what this line is here. This line is always a 10-period moving average. And so you can see we're so far above that. We still have, what is that? It's, two more trading days to go. But this could get interesting. We need to get above 117.75 to make a new high on the weekly chart. But we are well above our swing low level, which is 112.83. That's the high from this candle that marks the swing low. So that's your weekly cycle low or intermediate cycle low on week 35. So very important, the TLT trade may have further upside, which means yields would go down. And if you look at the monthly chart on this guy, I mentioned this was making a bearish pattern because we made a high, and then we started to fail. Now we've obviously reversed. There's still a lot of month left, and this is still kind of a doji candle, so we could still continue to reverse. But that chart, that daily chart, suggests we're going to see further upside. We're going to make a new high above that high we already have on day 11. So it suggests we're going to have a right translated daily cycle, which would suggest we're going to get maybe a little bit more upside here. I mean, this is still crazy bearish. This is your monthly chart. But you could see a world where we could trade up to maybe even like 125 before we fail lower. So there could still be a little bit more juice here. And if we switch over to SPX, so today is what is possibly day 16 of a new daily cycle. So we may have had like a really short daily cycle here that bottomed on day 25. We formed that swing low. We came up, made a high on day 6. We made a higher low. So this low is higher than this low. So very bullish, similar to what we just saw in the TLT chart. But then we had this kind of double top. This was actually a lower high. Not looking good. And then we came down, had a gap down opening today, but then rallied back. But look where we closed. Big reversal here. Like this upper wick always means a reversal. This was just ugly trading today, and the close wasn't awesome. But this gives you your levels. We could just be kind of like, is this high going to remain for day 6? You could see a world where we're going to, go for another test. People say triple tops don't exist. I think that's BS. But we'll see. We'll have to kind of reserve judgment. And if we look at the weekly chart, it's week 19. You can see we've got candles stacked right next to each other. These last 3 weeks, we've just been Like, this is just telling you we've been in that grind. That was your week. This is your weekly chart showing you that action on the daily where we just kind of went nowhere. We went up, then we went down, then we went up again. So we've just been kind of moving in this range. But we're really late in the weekly cycle. I mean, 19 weeks is pretty long. Like, now this cycle was obviously 31 weeks, and you tend to get cycles that are more like 25. So I'm not saying we're going to bottom like immediately, but, you know, we maybe have another 4 or 5 weeks. This certainly right here is, you know, at this point, potentially a bear flag, since we're much closer to the low from last week than we are to the high. But we still have a couple of trading days left, and let's see if we continue, you know, that we tried to make a reversal, a bullish reversal today. Let's see if we continue that. And the monthly candle is almost going red. And that's another important thing to pay attention to. We opened at 37.81. So below that level, the monthly candle is red. But even so, it's just an ugly inside monthly candle anyway. I doubt we make much progress in this month of July. And we're really going to finish the job in August. Which is to say, we actually, I take that back. Given we have half of the month left, we are much closer to the lower end of this than we are to the high. So you could easily see a move, you know, to test that low towards the end of July, and we sort of get follow through into August to give us a new low. And so if I move on to QQQ, very similar picture here. We potentially have a new daily cycle. This would be day 16. The Qs actually topped out on day 5, so a little bit more bearish than SPX, lost momentum quicker. Then we had this like little double top situation. Notice we actually made we actually had more of a double top for the Qs than we did for SPX, which may be telling you something about the QQQ starting to potentially pick up, because it's been a pretty big laggard. But the same kind of condition, we rallied back after the gap down opening, but like we barely made it to halfway through the range from yesterday. So not looking awesome, honestly. And on the weekly chart, so the Qs are a little bit behind S&P. It's actually week 16, so it just happens to be day 16 and week 16. That's just a coincidence. This, again, just like SPX, very much looks like a bear flag, like we're looking to make a new low below that 269 level, and maybe eventually meet our maker around 247. You know, maybe by the end of the summer at this point, given the timing, right? Like we're on week 16. Maybe we get a bottom around week 20. The S&P bottoms around week 25, 24. So they bottom around the same time, but the cycle is a little bit shorter for the Qs. And I'll switch over to SMH really quickly and call out that SMH is on week 15. So it's actually a little bit, actually, is that? Yeah. So it's week 15, but it's actually just an inside week from the last week. So this was week 14. And so we are flirting with the prospect of a swing low if we get above 210, basically. And so we may see a situation where SMH bottoms sooner than the Qs and kind of pulls it up. But if you look at the monthly chart on this guy, if you look at, if you look at the monthly chart, it's also setting up for a monthly swing low as well. So possibly something that's kind of helping to push the Qs along. And the Qs are definitely more green on the month than the SPX. So again, to that point of the Qs starting to shift in terms of leadership to outperform the SPX. And then we'll finally switch over to IWM. And so for IWM, very similar situation. I mean, I don't want to kind of like pretty much the identical structure. Gap down opening, rallied back, really didn't make it too far though. Our high is day 7. This was day 17. We are on week 19, just like SPX. This definitely has the look of a bear flag, just kind of looking for a catalyst to push lower. And I'll remind, just this applies to all the indices. I believe we have made a 3-year cycle top. 3-year cycle, easy math, that's 36 months. So IWM topped out on month 20. SPX was month 22, I believe it was. Not that version of SPX. This version. Right, so month 22, we're now on month 28. The Qs topped out on month 20, just like IWM. So that was November, and we're now on month 28. So think about that. If we're not going to get the low until around month 36, we still have a lot of wood to chop on the downside.